Today's episode can almost be called the Reggie Bates experience because he gives so many great gems throughout this episode. And if you want to know those gems, stay tuned until after the music.
You're about to listen to a great episode of the Laz and B Experience podcast. Within this episode, my hope is that you obtain something that will help you find your success. So grab a pen, get your paper, your favorite snack or drink, and really listen to what I have to say. I truly believe it can be what you need to get you to your next level in life. So grab a seat and enjoy the ride, and I'll see you on the other side. Welcome back to another episode of the Laz and B Experience podcast. Thank you for listening in, and hopefully this episode will be very informative and help you find your success where you're looking for it. But today I have a very special guest. I know all my guests are very special, but today this is another very special guest that I've been knowing for quite a few years now. We both went to NIU together, Northern Illinois University. We both were leaders of great Black organizations on campus that I think changed a lot of people or helped a lot of people be successful. But without further ado, I do want to introduce my guest for today, Mr. Reggie Bates.
Yo, man, what's going on, bro? Thank you so much for having me. You're going to insert some fake claps right there.
I could definitely do that.
Hey, hopefully it works. But, I'm super excited to be on the Laz and B Experience, man. Having podcasts is not an easy feat at all, especially as a one-man team. That is crazy to me. I could never. So I'm super excited for what we're about to do today.
Definitely. And I think today's topic is going to be great for a lot of people trying to figure out how to find success wherever they're looking for it. But if you couldn't tell by the title for today, you can know we're talking about developing your why and then healing from your past hurt. So, Reggie, if you can tell us just a little bit about yourself and why you are, for lack of better words, the experts of those two topics.
Got you. I'll try to keep the bio brief since you said just a little bit. But I am a motivational artist and leadership facilitator. I go by being a motivational artist and not a speaker. So I need my people to feel me and not just hear me. So I've been leading and succeeding in that field for about 10 years now. I'm also known as a mentoring specialist. So I've been mentoring for about 9 years. I've been training people to properly mentor for about the last 8. And so that is kind of my bread and butter. I am the founder and CEO of a podcast called the Sick Discussion Podcast, which at this point we're more than just a podcast because we have a drinking game out on the market as well as 2 brand new YouTube shows. And I am an educator. So I've been in education. I've been teaching for about 5 years now. I've been directing fine arts spaces, but I've also directed a few shows like Shy Night Live. I've directed some plays, written some comedic sketches. I do a bunch of artsy stuff.
I think I've seen Shy Night Live. It's on YouTube, right?
Yeah. Some of the clips are on YouTube.
Yeah, I think I've seen some of it, yeah.
Crazy story about that, right? So one of my bros, Randus Hopkins, Rando, man, love him. We dream on a similar frequency. And so he was like, bro, I really want to do a late night talk show, but I don't want it to just be a talk show. You know, he's like, think about like All That, right? All That meets Jimmy Fallon. So it's a talk show, but also we are doing like comedic sketches in between. Okay. And then I was like, cool, I like this. He was like, but I want to do it in front of a live studio audience. And I was like, yo, this is going to be crazy, yo. How can I help? He was like, I'm happy you asked because I want you to be the director and the producer of the show. So I geeked out. I got my old team together, my improv comedians, my sketch team, my writers, and man, we shot a pilot in front of a live studio audience. And so, unlike All That, where at the end you have a musical guest, for 2 of the episodes we did live sketches in front of the studio audience. So like in living color. So it was dope. It was really, really dope. And then the audio got lost in cyberspace because then COVID had hit, and I guess the audio engineer went through a divorce. And so the full show never actually saw the light of day. So
Okay. Maybe I was thinking of a different show, but I mean, if y'all can get that back, that would definitely be good to see
but
that.
I do have some sketches on YouTube. I have quite a few things on YouTube now, so I just be doing stuff, man.
So it looks like you kind of found like your why and what you want to work on. Like, so what do you think is the importance of finding your why?
So you don't really begin to live until you figured out your why. You know, we can't just operate in not knowing who we are. But unfortunately, some of us come from neighborhoods or we come from schools where you're not taught how to dream, right? You're taught, oh, you do dream and there are dreams, but you're not taught how to dream. More importantly, you're not taught how to turn those dreams into actions, right? So a dream without a plan is nothing but good sleep. So we have all these great ideas. We might be super talented and then we do nothing with it.
Exactly.
And so my senior year in high school, I decided to scratch that itch. So my entire life, I wanted to be funny. I thought I was gonna be Michael Jackson or a Power Ranger. I thought those when I was a shorty, those was my options. No in between. And so, or a mutant. But I was like, I'm closer to being a Power Ranger or Michael Jackson than I was developing superpowers. And so once I got to middle school, they started to have those conversations about what do you want to be when you get older. I couldn't say a Power Ranger. You know what I mean? I just couldn't say that. So I said I wanted to be a lawyer. And it sounded great. It was cool. And by 8th grade, I realized I didn't want to argue with nobody. Like, I'm not arguing with nobody. You gonna argue with yourself. And so lawyer turned into psychologist. And then I got into high school and I started to take psychology courses and sociology courses. And I started to give people advice about their relationships. And I realized that was cute. Psychology is cute. It's cool. But it wasn't quite doing it for me. So my senior year in high school, I decided to be the me I was in the shower, right? When I was in the shower, I would sing, I would dance, I would create arguments I was going to have with people. You know what I mean? And like, I knew what I was going to say. And so senior year, I just took a leap of faith into theater. And although a lot of people tried to talk me out of it, including my high school counselor, I just went for it. I went for it, and that's when I met my mentor, Mrs. Yvonne Nesbitt, rest her soul, where she just brought that thing up out of me, and that was the most alive I ever felt. Like waking up at 6 a.m. to do lines or to go to rehearsals. Like I was up at 5:30, you know, even though I'd go to sleep until 1 a.m. because I was working on that. Like that was a thing that although I was doing work, it didn't feel like work, and I was always finding new avenues to just hit it, right? And so that's how I found my why. I just took a leap of faith into that thing that has always been playing in the back of my mind. And then that opened the doors to directing and poetry and motivational speaking and improv comedy. And like this entire, now I'm a director of fine arts for high schools, right? Like all of those doors opened up because I scratched that itch.
So do you think, how big of a role do you think that why played in your success?
All of it.
Okay.
All of it. Every single minute, every single second. College was kind of rough for me. So I was what you would call like a public success and a private mess. Right? So it looked good. The suits looked good. Everything looked good. The strolling, the hosting events. Whereas like what people didn't know, in order to host those events the way that I did, I would hold kickbacks where I just get drunk and just go for it. It's like, no, if you can't do something sober, you're actually not good at it. And you're an addict. But like, you're definitely not good at it. Yeah, so it was just this time where I was doing a lot of great things, but when I would go back into my dorm room or I'd go back home, I'd still feel super, super empty inside. But when I started to do work with Black Theater Workshop, and a bunch of other improv troupes and motivationally speak, those are things I could do sober. Those are things I couldn't even imagine doing it under any other influences. And those are things that, even though I did it well, every time I did it, I looked for another way to do it better. I looked for another way to step it up. And then how can I teach this thing to other people? Because you're not a master of anything if you can't teach it to another, right? And so it became that challenge that, again, didn't feel like work. So it opened up every door possible for what I do now.
So it seems like you found your why pretty early in life. Do you think there's a certain time where people should be looking for their why?
I think you should always search for your why. Again, I'm really quote heavy, right? So I genuinely believe the day you stop growing and the day you stop learning is the day you begin to die. So you should always be looking and searching for that why. But you should look and search for that why while knowing your why is going to change. Mm-hmm. It's important that your why changes. You know, that is super, super important. Because if you are not used to your why changing, right, when that reason that you're pursuing something is it has been reached, or when the season is over, you won't be able to grasp the concept of it's time to move on. And so anything that's set out too long will expire, right? It'll begin to rot. Mm-hmm. So there are a lot of people who are super talented, did a lot of really cool things, but the reason was up, the season was over, but they couldn't wrap their mind around change being present. Mm-hmm. And so now they're in like a really bad situation.
So how do you know it's time to change that why, or it's time to pivot from what you're working on?
So, you know, when you've achieved the goal, first of all, like, right, you got to set goals to get to places and get to things. So when you've achieved the goal, boom, done. You know. Secondly, though, if it's not a goal-oriented thing, I'm really big on knowing God and being spiritually sound. Mm-hmm. And so you have to use that gift of discernment. Like, some things feel good. Like, if it's meant for you, it's going to feel good. It's going to be exciting. It's all of the things. When it's no longer feeling good, when that same thing that excited you and you would be happy to wake up in the morning for, when that thing starts to drain you and tire you out, that's a good sign that the season is up. So those would be I would say the top two warning signs when it's no longer fulfilling you mm-hmm. the way that it did. And again, when it's really, we don't even got to go to that second one. We can just stick with that one. When it is not fulfilling you the way that it once did, boom, like that, you're through with it.
Yeah, I agree. So it seemed like you had influential people in your life, especially mm-hmm. early on. What are some resources, or who are some people that you think can help others find that why, develop that why?
Well, first and foremost, a therapist. Mm-hmm. Like, a lot of us are pretty messed up. We're pretty twisted, you know, which is not our fault. We come from parents who did their best, their very best, but those parents also came from trauma, and they came from trauma in an era where you couldn't just go to a psychologist or a therapist unless you were like crazy. You know, they had mm-hmm. such a bad stigma around mental health. And then they came from the generation before them, came from a generation where you didn't talk about what was happening in your head. Like, you just went to church about it. Mm-hmm. The same church that probably helped traumatize you, but you kept going, mm-hmm. you know? So we picked up this generational trauma when it came down to mental health. So your therapist is always the very first person. And when I recommend therapy, I just like to give out the disclaimer. Therapy is a lot like dating. So the first therapist that you talk to, y'all might not vibe well. It's okay. Like, thanks for the first date. Most of the times that mm-hmm. one's free anyway. Go find you another therapist. Don't just give up on therapy because it didn't work out with the first one or the second one or the third one. But now by the fifth one, what you doing? What are you searching for? Like, are you looking for the right thing?
Are you looking in the right places?
Yeah, like, what are you doing? So therapists is the first collection of people who can help you with that. Mentors. Like, I genuinely believe in the power of mentoring. People who come from different places than you, but also have reached the goals and the levels of success that you aspire to mm-hmm. reach. Mentorship is super important because mentors are a GPS system. You know, so when your phone dies or when Apple Maps keeps sending you into all the wrong places, like, that is not Burger King, sir. That's a vacant lot. You're trying to get me robbed. Like, you can contact a mentor who knows that block like the back of their hand so mm-hmm. that you can still get to your destination safely.
And one thing I like about mentors is that you don't have to have just one mentor. Mm-mm. You have mentors for different parts of your life. So if you're looking for somebody who can help you with your finances, you have a mentor for that. If you're looking for someone who can help you with your health, you have somebody for that. So you definitely don't, you don't have to have just one. And then two, they don't have to be a mentor forever.
Oh.
Like, they can be for just a season in your life,
there we
just
go.
a point in your life. Like, you can definitely keep moving through mentors like you're moving through therapists.
Yeah. Reasons and seasons.
Exactly.
The reason would be a goal that you set. The season would just be proximity or whatever you was going through. When those things are up, y'all got to renew the reasons you have relations with this person. Because if not, that's where displacement can come in and projection and all this other stuff. And now it's like, why do I have all these expectations for this person? Mm-hmm. But it's like, you're just holding on to something that's been done. That's been over with. You've been achieved that goal, or y'all been not connecting because you're now on two different parts of the world, like mentally. So just like let it go.
And then another thing with mentors is they're not your parents, so they're not there to tell you what to do. They're not tell you how to do it. They're giving you advice on what they think you should do, and you have to make that decision on how you want to make those roles.
So that's why I always recommend 2 mentors for every one thing you want to do. So if you want to lose weight or whatever, right, I recommend you getting a mentor who has lost the weight already. And then I recommend, a trainer, right? And then I recommend you getting another one who had never even picked up that weight. Because you're going to get 2 different perspectives, right? Mm-hmm. The person who lost all the weight is going to be like, be nice to yourself, be kind, eat that Portillo's, you know what I mean? Like, work it off. It's not easy. Mm-hmm. And then the person who's never been fat has never even experienced that. So they're like, bro, put the honey buns down.
Exactly.
Like, get out of bed, go to the gym. You know, both perspectives are good. They are good. So you need both so that you can figure out what decision you want to make, because all mentors are biased.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? So I recommend 2. So you take the bias from the left, the bias from the right, you process it, and then you still make your own decision.
So you talked about therapists, or you talk about therapy. Do you think therapy is only talking to someone else who has like a degree in therapy? Because I hear a lot of, especially with artists, I hear them saying like, my art is my therapy, or like with comedians, they say me going on stage is my therapy. Like, what do you feel about, how do you feel about that?
I feel like those are results of mental health issues. All right, I think that is mental illness to convince a lot of the people that your therapy is anything other than a professional therapist. You know, like those things are therapeutic. You know, they are relaxing, you know, they might help you cope for in the moment, but if you're not getting the skills to like process whatever it is that you're going through and to overcome what you're going through, then it's not helpful. Mm-hmm. You know, so I do recommend getting a licensed professional to help you out. So like, I'm a life coach, right? And I tell everyone I am not a therapist. Now, God has given me some talents and some abilities to be able to help talk people off of those ledges. And I've had enough experiences with mental health lapses and things like that to where I can give some sound advice on it. But I always leave my advice when I'm not a therapist, because I needed a therapist and I will not fake the place of a therapist, you know. But going on stage is very therapeutic. Like, I feel very much so alive when I'm speaking or when I'm mentoring and doing things like that. Like, that makes me feel like I'm living a life that's worth it. As is working out, you know, after the working out, getting there, sheesh. But once I get there and I've worked out, like, I feel great. You know, I feel like I feel the muscles building and the fat slimming down, right? But like, those things are therapeutic. They're temporary. By the time you've laid your head comfortably or you get up in the morning, that thing has passed, it's over with, and now you got to deal with real life again.
I think we were kind of going into that second topic, but before we like really dive deep into that, I still want to get a little bit on developing your why. And my question is, do your why have to be attached to a skill or a natural ability or something that you're like really good at?
I believe your why is initially attached to a skill or an ability. So again, life is hard. We don't get that white and black. Here's your why, you live in it, and boom, success. Like, that's not how it works, right? So you scratch. That's why I said scratch an itch at first, because it's this thing that's kind of like itching at you, scratching at you, and it's like, nah, like, I want your attention. I want your attention. And then you have to like give that thing attention, because it's going to open another door, and they're going to go through that door. And then that's gonna open another door, and then it's gonna close like 5 doors, and then but this golden door is gonna open, but because doors were closed, you're gonna get anxiety. So then you're gonna be stuck at that door, like, do I go through it? Do I just go backwards for what I know? So you're gonna have to go through this process of going through doors until you've become comfortable with being uncomfortable. Meaning you have just become comfortable with just going for it, going into the unknown, unless it's like a raper van or something. Don't do that, right? But as far as life, right? As far as life experiences, you become so comfortable with taking risks and learning from them and picking up knowledge and teaching and lifting as you climb. Like, once you get in the habit of that, you'll realize that your circumstances will start to change. And eventually you'll walk through a door, or you'll have an opportunity that makes all of your experiences make sense. And it's like, damn, that's my why. You know, like that's what happened. So for me, it was just taking a step and going into a theater class my senior year of high school. I had no idea that a few weeks after that, I'd be doing improv comedy. And then a few weeks after that, I'd be in my first comedic play. And then from being in that play, I'd be in this drama. It was actually a musical, 7 Guitars by August Wilson. And this was during this thing called contest play, where high schools compete for state championships in theater. Had no idea. And I made it all the way to state doing that. And then once state was over, I was tasked with directing a play. This is all in less than a year of me being in theater. And so I direct this comedy murder mystery or whatever, which was like unheard of at my high school. And to this day, it's still the highest grossing play that the high school has ever seen, which landed me on their wall of fame. I'm one of like maybe 5 people in the 70 or 80 years this school has been around to be on their wall of fame twice for the different occasions, you know? And so that just opened the doors for college and motivational speaking and directing and all this other stuff. And so now I'm sitting here directing whole programs that are dedicated to teaching the youth the arts. That wouldn't have ever happened if I wouldn't have ever started that one theater class in high school. You know, so the why is going to change because your why is a journey. But once you find it, once you figure it out, it's up and it's stuck.
So can you give us some examples of what your why could be? Because I feel like some people might say my why is, I don't know, like not
making money.
Yeah, making money, or some simple where it's not really a good, I guess, foundation. So what's some examples can you give of what a why could be? Okay,
so your why is always going to be connected to unreasonable happiness. It's going to always be connected to unreasonable happiness. So making money is just a cop-out, right? Because you could actually make money from it, anything. People told me there was no money in teaching. I am getting paid. You know what I mean? I don't know what everybody else do, but again, you never paid your value in anything. You always pay what you negotiate.
Yeah.
Right? And so, like, I haven't had an issue financially as a teacher. They told me there was no money in mentoring. And I'm getting all types of grants and all types of stuff. Then people say there was no money in podcasts. And now everything's a podcast. Like, what is that? So it's just no money for you. Because that's not what you're good at. Like, there's always going to be money in the things that you're good at. So your why typically involves A, unreasonable happiness, and then B, something that you're going to have to teach to someone else. Like, that is what your why is always going to lead to. Because if you are not taking the next generation and teaching them that thing and like molding that thing within them, then it's not your purpose. You know, and not to say you're going to go into it like, hey, I'm about to teach people this thing. But if it's your why, you're going to be so good at it that people will naturally want to learn from you. And then you will be able to create those steps, the paperwork, whatever you need to be able to keep that thing in the space of being learned, right? So I'm trying to say what could be your why, right? In the most general terms as possible. But ultimately, if you have to wake up at 5 a.m. for this thing, right? And you may not be able to get back home until 11 p.m. for this thing, and you're okay with that, like, and it feels good, it's probably your why, or at least the why you need that's gonna connect you to your real why.
Nice. Okay. I like that. So we can kind of move on to the next topic that we can talk about, which is healing from your hurt. So when you say hurt, what exactly are we talking about?
It is the pain we carry, whether we know it's pain, right? We all hear people ask, like, who hurt you? You know, like, but people really do be hurt, man. That pain, well, that hurt could be generational trauma, or it can be fresh trauma that was fresh to you, right? Because the world, hurt people, you know? And so that's, again, trying to keep it general, because when we go down the loophole, a lot of people who are trying to heal gonna burn sage and say that's not applicable for me. But no, we have a lot of behaviors and responses to things that we don't understand. And sometimes people just say, oh, this is Josh being Josh, or this is Reggie being Reggie. But that don't mean it's right, nor did it mean it's appropriate. That just means there's a lot of people who just accepted this behavior, you know? And so hurt is ultimately these behaviors or responses to things that you can't understand because they've been built in to like who you are because of some pain that or some trauma that may have been caused onto you.
So after a person realizes what hurt them, or at least one thing that hurt them, what are some ways or techniques they can get to that healing from it?
We might have to hashtag therapy on this on this episode.
And it's crazy. No. I'm going to actually have a therapist. I don't know how it's going to go out as far as compared to when I put out this episode, but I'm definitely going to have a therapist.
You're going to need a therapist. You're going to need a therapist on here. But yeah, therapy. If you can't find your therapist in time, right, there's like a few more things that you can do. Reading, right? But then if you're not a reader, then audiobooks. Physical activity really does help. It just helps you process things. It releases all of those endorphins in your minds that causes you the anxieties, the anger, the buildups. So I don't want to say anything that releases endorphins, because then people gonna be like, that's why I smoke, right? Or like, let me just go be like a thought or whatever. They're gonna be me keeping it PG as possible. So yeah, man, let's go with therapy and work it out in just other ways that you can healthily relieve stress.
So with healing, does it mean that you have to forgive or even forget what hurt you or the person that hurt you in order for you to get that healing?
So, yes, healing does require forgiveness. However, forgiveness does not necessarily mean reconnection. You know, it is people's job. It is the world's job to mess you up, right? And it is our jobs to undo the damage. Like, we didn't ask for the things that happened to us, but we are fully responsible for our healing. Like that we are. And so it's tough. You have to forgive these people, and real forgiveness, not
just saying it.
I'm over it. I'm over them whenever it come up. You catch attitudes and they still block, but you can block. Hey, block who you gonna block, but
if you have to,
just know when snap responses come into play, when like a certain person or people or a thing is brought up, you're not over it. And so you will have to heal. You know, you have to forgive, which forgiveness becomes easier when you have that tough conversation, which may take time, right? Especially if we're dealing with abusers and things like that. We just can't say a month after the abuse, you ready to have that hard conversation, right? Because that's how a lot of people end up in jail. You feel me? Like, see him again, you just black out, you know?
Exactly.
Or if they're still a serial abuser, right? They'll take that moment if given enough time to rope you back into manipulation or the abuse. So you take your time with how you want the healing to take place, or the forgiveness to take place, right? You definitely take your time with that. But if you ever want to fully heal from a situation, it will take genuine and honest forgiveness. It's actually going to take a bit of empathy and some sympathy. And it may even take that hard conversation with who hurt you.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's not easy, but you don't got to reconnect, but you absolutely got to close those, you got to close some of those doors.
So while you're on that healing journey, like if you're not completely healed, can you still be successful at whatever you're trying to be successful at? Or do you have to like get through that healing process of whatever hurt you in order for you to reach that success that you're looking for?
Great question. So you can very much so still be successful and hurt. You know, look at Donald Trump. Sorry, not sorry. Like somebody hurt that man. You know, but he's mad successful.
I mean, do you say he's successful because of all the money he got, or because of the positions he had, or anything like that? Like, why do we say he's successful?
Because he has freedom.
Okay.
He has financial freedom. He can say literally what he wants. He can do what he wants, goes what he wants. Like, success for me is freedom.
Yes. Okay.
You know, like Beyonce can walk into a mall and buy the mall. That's success for me. It's not just because she can buy it. You know what I mean? But like, she can do it. She can do what she wants.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like she just changed the whole sound of music. Like house music and disco was dead, dog. And just because she said so, now everybody is listening to it and voguing and all of that, right? So it's like that is what success is for me. Mm-hmm. And so you can be mad successful. You can go off and have families and get married. You can do all types of beautiful things while still being hurt. But unfortunately, hurt people hurt people. Mm-hmm. And when some of those triggers pop up, because life has a really weird way of reminding us of our triggers. And when that trigger goes off and that reminder of your pain comes up, you'll respond in that defensive way or that aggressive way or in that way to protect yourself. And that response will go on and then hurt other people. So you got to heal through those things or you're going to hurt other people. Even if you think it's like a slight little lashing out or whatever, you have no idea on how those small moments manifest in people's minds to become big barriers for them in the future.
So what are some reasons or what are some reasons why people might have trouble getting past that hurt or getting to that healing place?
Ooh, there's quite a few reasons, Josh. Like, it depends on how deep the trauma is, man. So, of course, if this is like sexual trauma or if it's physical trauma, things like that creates a bodily response to things, you know, where something goes off in your brain that immediately goes off in your body and it like shuts you down or it just hot wires you into this like monster or into this person that you wouldn't naturally be. Mm-hmm. So that could become a whole situation, right? And then we have our like other things like microaggressions and stuff like that, which are a little more minute, I guess, in action. But once those bits of trauma triggers and connects other pieces of your trauma or your hurt, now you've had this big explosion and people are just like, oh, I just said you looked nice today, like you crazy. But it's like, nah, it's all this other stuff that just built up to this moment, and then you stared at me for 5 minutes before you told me I look nice. Like, what was you doing when you were staring? What was you thinking when you were staring, right? It makes people go off. So it's always gonna be one of those tricky situations because it ultimately comes down to what was that type of trauma.
Mm-hmm. So let's say someone is healed from their trauma or healed from their past hurt or whatever. What are some ways or things they can do to make sure they're not hurt, at least not in that same way again? That's
a really good question. And I say that because, right, this becomes a matter of what ifs, you know? Because if you really fully heal through a thing, it shouldn't hurt you as much
Mm-hmm.
if it revisits, if it comes back up in another way. But you have to handle it differently. When you start to see signs of things that has hurt you in the past, it's your responsibility to kind of stop it in its tracks. Because if you know, like, this is my trauma, or this hurt me, or this person hurt me this way, and you've gone through therapy and you've healed through it, and then you date somebody else, or you're talking to somebody else, or another job that has all the same triggers as before, and you just like, woo, well, I'm healed, so I'm all right. It's like, no, it's actually something mentally wrong with you, that you see all the signs of the thing that broke you down, and now you're just walking in it because you have healed from it. Like, those triggers, those constant triggers will go off eventually, and it might undo a lot of the work. Mm-hmm. So you may have to avoid some of those spaces that are constant reminders of your triggers. Because we don't have to live that way. Like, we don't always have to live super defensive. Like, we don't have to live, like, always on edge. I'm pretty sure that is not the life that, like, God made for us. You know what I mean? But we just got to work through some things so that we can get to that freedom. Mm-hmm. And if that work through is identifying something as a trigger and going in the opposite direction because you don't want to be triggered, like, you don't even want to deal with the possibility of being triggered, then that's growth. It's not you running from something, or like, that's just you knowing, I'm not doing that.
I know this is probably another what if, but I feel like it's an important what if when it comes to healing, and that is, what if the ones that are hurting you are the people that you love, or the people that your family, the ones that you have to live with, the ones that you should want to visit or whatever, or the job that you really enjoy doing, and it's kind of hard to find another job like that type of job.
You know, so hurt people, you know, and we use titles a lot to hold on to things. But if you hold on to anything that's not good for you, it's going to make you sick. You know, it's going to come off as a joke, but I'm serious, you know. I love a good steak, you know. But if I'm just holding on to this steak, not eating it, letting it out, all this, eventually bacteria is going to start to grow on this steak. And even if I never eat it, right? But I'm like, no, I love this steak. You feel me? After the bacteria grows, mold grows, insects come and all this. And I'm just like, what if it's my steak, right? It can start to make you sick because of the fumes for the bacteria, all of that, right? And that thing can literally kill you. And so that is the same for people. I know we are born into families, but if family members are your triggers, if family members are the sources of your trauma, you have to take a step back. So me and my mom have went through this very, very, very like vicious cycle where she struggled with the leaving the nest syndrome. And so she had like kicked me out of the crib when I was in high school because I was always after school. And when she asked me where I wanted to go for college, I said, I'm going to go as far as the good Lord to take me. So my mom, because of her trauma, told her that, man, I wanted to get as far away from her as possible. But no, I wanted to go where my God had designed for me to go, you know? So me and her butted heads with that. And then when we healed through that, and I was getting ready for, well, actually I was going for college. Whenever I would come home, we go through this leaving the nest thing again, where I say, Mom, I'm coming home. She's like, oh, I'll come get you. I'm like, yo, that's a long drive. You don't got to come get me. No, I'll come get you. Ma, you're literally scared to drive next to semi-trucks. It's a lot of those in the cornfields. I'm okay. I'll take the train. No, I'll come get you. So my mom will come get me. Then we'll go shopping. We'll go to the movies. We'll go out to eat, everything. First night belongs to my mom. Next day, it'll be a little something. You in the bathroom too long. I'm like, okay, relax. I just woke up at 12. You should have been in here. But whatever, right? No biggie. Going out with my friends. And then the morning of, it's time for me to leave, we would always get into this big argument. I'm just like, I don't even know why I keep coming back here. And we're just yelling at each other. And we did that for years until I think I turned maybe 22 or 23. And as we're doing this, I looked at my mom And you looking at me crazy. Like, you want to do something? I said, no, Ma, I don't want to do a thing. Actually, I don't even want to argue with you. And I'm never going to argue with you again. So if me coming home always leads to us arguing, I will literally never come home again. Like, I won't do it. I love you too much to keep arguing with you. So if this is the last time I have to lay eyes on you ever again in my life, I will do that to hold on to good memories because I'm not arguing with you again. You know, and so we went days without talking. And she called me, man, you still not talking to me, huh? I said, probably. Because you're trying to argue again. I love you too much to argue with you. And like a month went by. She called me and she said, oh, you actually serious? I said, Ma, listen. You taught me to believe in a God, okay? And I love God deeply. I know my God didn't plan for me to argue with my mother for this long in my life. It's not happening. So I'm going to trust that God is going to do a thing with me, and I'm going to pray God's going to do a thing for you. So if we're never talking again, we're never talking again. Me and my mom have not really argued ever since then. That was like 7 years ago.
How did you get to that point to like be like that, where you're like, I want this relationship with you, but I'm not fin to argue with you to have this relationship with you?
Well, so I had a cheat code because I had already started motivationally speaking. So I'm reading all of these books and I'm surrounding
myself. Can you name
myself.
some of those books?
I'll try not to curse because a lot of the books I like to read got cursing in it. Because that's just how I like to be talked to. You know?
If it's the name of the book.
Yeah, so it's a book called The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F, right?
Okay.
And so it just teaches you how to stop caring about certain things. Then there's another book called Stop Doing That S Word, which is just like, how do you end self-sabotage in your life? Steve Harvey wrote a really good book called Jump. Jump has done some great things for me. I have a friend, actually, Dr. Natalie Williams, who wrote a book called Interviews, INNER view, a lesson in leadership on how to look back inward about a lot of things. Black privilege.
Was she one that was on your podcast?
Yes, she was on the podcast, and she's gonna be on this new season of the podcast as well. Because when it's good, you got to run it back.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, man, those are just a few books that has just helped reshape. For younger people, letters from my young brothers, letters to my young brother by Hill Harper, and he also has another book called Letters to My Young Sisters, right? So those are just a few books that has really helped reshape some things for me. But again, me having a cheat code, I would go to motivational speaking conferences and conventions, and I would ask some of these people to be my mentors, and not just like say you my mentor for this picture. Like, no, like pour into me, invest into me. I want to learn this craft. I want to go through those things. And I was just blessed for some of my mentors in the motivational speaking field to really care about healing, to really be able to identify some problems. So I was constantly in spaces that were growth based and that were vulnerable. And like, I went going years without crying to like every month, I'm with these people, we're crying and hugging, you know what I mean? So I grew up in a family where we would tell you I love you, not as often, and we wouldn't hug. I didn't do hugs. And now I'm around all these huggers, and it's I love you when we get off the phone, I love you in a text message. And that helped me with that, because we only know life from our own little bubble, our own little fishbowl. And I was blessed to go to college and go to spaces where other fishes that would not naturally swim in my bowl were just dropped into my tank, and they showed me there was a different way to do this life thing. Like, they showed me that you could actually love what you do, because I, at least growing up, a bunch of adults who had jobs that they hated. But I saw adults love what they do. And so I was able to learn from them. This is how you figure out what you love so that you can love what you do, right? This is how you can love on people. I saw adults who had these loving relationships with their parents, man, and family members. And I got 6 brothers and sisters. And by the grace of God, all of my grandmothers are alive. I have a great-great-grandmother who's turning 98 in a few months. So it's like, I got family around. I'm like, why do we do family this way? Like, I'm watching other families love on each other and group FaceTime and have group chats and give gifts at Christmas and birthdays. And I'm looking at my family like, why are we not doing this? So it took for me to be exposed to something different and to something new to realize that it was possible. And I saw the possibilities in so many quantities and so many amounts that I just decided to make it possible for me and my people. So I initiated those tough conversations, and it changed how we did things.
So this actually wasn't supposed to be on this podcast, but I feel like it's going to be very helpful. And I'm actually going to have an episode dedicated just to it, which is mentorship. I think it's very important when it comes to being successful in whatever field you're trying to be successful in, is to have a mentor. And throughout this episode, we talked about mentorship a couple times. So I think it's important for us just to give a little taste of helping someone find a mentor, or be that mentor, or be that mentee. I am going to have an episode this season actually dedicated just to mentorship. But if you listen to this episode right now, I want to give you just a little bit of what can possibly help you. So, like, how do you start that process of trying to be a mentee or get a mentor?
Yes, Josh, let's go. So know that the whole purpose of a mentor is to build competence and character within their mentee. Competence meaning wisdom, right? Character meaning integrity. Okay, so your mentor is only here to make you wiser and more morally sound, like to make better ethical decisions. Those are the whole purpose of mentors, you know. But you can have a life mentor who might serve as like your life coach and a fake therapist or whatever. But again, your mentor ain't your therapist. All right? I cannot say that enough, you know. You might get a mentor who's going to help you with finances, help you with the gym, whatever. So the best way to find a mentor is by first looking inward. Identify what is it that you lack that you would like to work towards. That is an honest conversation you have to have with yourself. So if you tell yourself, well, I'm not lacking nothing, I guess you don't need a mentor then, good luck. You know, but when you can identify, like, I want to do this better. Not even that you're doing something bad. I just want to do this better. You know, then you have to identify people who are doing it well. Always look grand level first. And I say look grand level because we have social media. So social media shows us everyone who's doing something at the highest point, right? Or at least people who know how to make themselves look like they're doing it at the highest point, because there's a lot of public success and private mess on the internet. And that's cool. Look at those people. From those people, you have to see who inspired those people. Okay. Right? After you see who inspired those people, then you have to see who is inspired by your person. And you have to do that because you got to see who mentored the person you want to mentor you. Who are some of the people who can be considered mentees by that person? This is how you weed things out. Because if a mentee of your mentor does not also look up to one of your mentors, there is a gap. Okay. And what is happening, because when you become a mentor, sometimes you become successful enough where you start to become the like superhero in all your stories, right? Congratulations, that's a narcissist, right? Like, that's just what it is. And so when you have mentors who can identify their mentors, or the mentees can identify a mentor's mentor, it's something wrong's happening there. You know, but if you can see that connection, right? If you see a set of mentees who knows their mentors are like inspirations, it shows the respect of the chain of command. Now, you connect yourself to the mentees of the person you want to learn from. Because if this cycle is working the way that it should, right? If you're being mentored by someone you're looking up to, mentees, at some point, the relationship gets so tight, they want to introduce you to their mentor. And now you've gotten all the lessons, right? Not only from the mentee, because the mentee should have other mentors, right? So you got this whole new wealth of knowledge with like a hint of your inspiration. And then that's going to connect you to your actual inspiration. So you've gotten that. And then some, simply because you followed the chain of command. So I'm not telling everybody to see if you Beyonce, right? If we're going to go Beyonce, I'm not saying go find Chloe and Halle and then think you're going to get to Beyonce through Chloe and Halle, right? Because those are mega superstars. These are people who are famous. I'm not saying look for famous people. I'm saying look for successful people.
Yeah.
Because a successful person might only have 200 followers on Instagram, right? But they're actually doing all of the work. They're doing all of the work. They just don't care for social media because they're too busy doing the work, right?
So if they're not that far into social media or they don't care about social media, how do you know that they are like the person you should be going to?
It's a great question. You ask questions. So when you see like, one, become a stalker, okay? Well, probably not best advice. Become an investigator. All right, there we go. There we go. Become an investigator. So when you see someone who's doing some things that you want to do, first of all, you Google them, right? What are they doing on Google? Do they got a website? Like, are they official? Are they legit? Then you go through their LinkedIn, okay? Are they doing this work professionally? And not everyone updates their LinkedIn, especially when you're secured in your job. But do you at least see some jobs and some accolades under there somewhere that shows they do this in real life after you've checked LinkedIn? Then you go to check the Facebooks and Instagrams. So you go to check all of that stuff. You know what I mean? You have to investigate these people. Are there any articles out there about them? Have they done any podcasts? Like, what can you find about these people to know that they're legit? If they check whatever boxes that is that you're looking for, now you send the DM or you reach out or you connect yourself to someone who's connected to them. And once you've shown that you're genuine and wanting to learn from that person and things like that, you eventually ask them to connect you to that person, right? That's how it works. It's all networking.
Yeah, I agree. So I think a lot of people who might be listening to this might be going to college or thinking about going to college. And I think going to college is definitely great for some people. It's not for everybody, of course. But if you're going to college, how can you reach the people who you want to be your mentor, like in the college setting?
Oh yeah, that's even easier. Come on, Josh, you got me doing.
I'm just trying to help these. I'm trying to help.
No, I got you. No, I love it. I love it. So, first of all, right, these are not internet famous people unless they are. Then woo. But guess what? You get to see them every day. So, one of my mentees, Anthony, his freshman year, he comes to NIU, right? And I'm a campus celebrity at this point. I'm hosting everything. I'm president of Black Male Initiative. At that point, I was pledging Alpha at the time, so people didn't know, but until they knew at the end of the semester. But whatever the case, Anthony's like at the welcome days doing all the things that freshmen do, right? And he said he saw me just walking across the campus in like a suit or something like that. And I was surrounded by a lot of people. So he's like, I don't know who that person is, right? But I want to get to know who that person is. So then later on that night, I'm hosting the glow in the dark party and all that, and I'm lit. So he's like, I think that's that same dude I saw in the suit, and now he turning up. I got to see who is this man, right? And then they had the involvement fair, and he came looking for an organization that looked like I may be a part of it. Like legit, he told me that was his focus. I was not there at the career fair. I mean, at the organization fair, involvement fair. But he saw the Black Male Initiative table, and they were wearing suits.
You're like,
and
that must be it.
I promise you. He said this. He told me. He said, I don't see that man, but this looks like an organization that man might be connected to.
Okay.
And so he signed up. The very first day of BMI meeting, Anthony is sitting at the very front of the room. And I like to come in like maybe 5 minutes before the meeting starts. So the room's already filling up, whatever. I'm coming to walk in, my little entourage, which who did I think I was to have an entourage, right? Hated it. Loved it, but I hated it. Public success, private mess, hashtag it. So I come walking in, and he's just like, I knew it. I knew this guy was in this organization. And then the meeting starts, Sergeant at Arms starts the meeting, and they introduced me as the president. So in that moment, he knew I was not leaving this room until I talked to that man and told him I want him to be my mentor, right? So I give you that story because that's how it needs to be in college as well. Like, don't just go looking for the people who have on their Greek letters, because those people it's going to be shady. These are the people you will learn will be the alcoholics. They're the drug heads. They're going to party hard. They're going to tell you need grades, and then they're going to struggle to maintain grades as well. And I'm not saying that to judge people, but when you become excited about the letters that's on the person's chest and like the strolling and stuff that they're doing, like, that's gonna send you off. And I say that because, y'all, I'm literally in a fraternity. I turned 8 in my fraternity this year. I love my fraternity, but like, we've messed some people up. You know what I mean? Like, I had to heal through some things, and it's not just my fraternity, fraternities as a whole, you know? And so I'm not saying just go looking for not to look for the fraternity leaders, but like, it's okay to look elsewhere, you know, see who's doing the work. Who's dressing the way that you want to dress? Who's speaking the way you want to speak? Who has the love and admiration that you desire to have? When you see those people on campus, you join the organizations that they're a part of. You know, unless it's Greek, because the Greek thing is different too. But you try to find you those organizations that are going to build your skills, and more importantly, organizations that are going to help you graduate. Like, you're in college to graduate. You're there to network and all that other stuff. But if your organization is not centered on graduation, finding you tutors and mentors and internships and like opportunities that's going to advance you, it's not an organization you need to be in.
And I will add to that, not just graduate, but graduate with something to look forward to after graduation. Because that piece of paper is just a piece of paper, and thousands of people get that piece of paper every year. So what can set you apart from whatever you're trying to do once you graduate to get to where you're trying to be successful? So definitely get that paper as in the diploma, but definitely figure out how you can stand out before you get that paper.
Absolutely. Start to learn your niche. Like, I started speaking motivational speaking when I was in college. I was facilitating events and workshops and stuff like that. I was leading panels and sitting on panels. I was hosting parties and events, but before I could host, I was in those organizations and performing. Like, I was doing all of those things, but I was also learning the leadership behind the things I was doing. Like, if you're going to be a model, great. You know, if you whatever you decide to do it. You're going to join the dodgeball team, do it. Learn the leadership behind it.
Yes.
Who is funding y'all? How does the money work? How does the meetings work? Who's taking notes? Where's the alum? Can I talk to who did it long before we did it? You know, you got to find the business behind the things you are joining so that you can be a more well-rounded leader, you know? So it's we could talk about that all day. But yeah, ultimately, investigate who on your campus is doing the work and doing the things that you are interested in, that you are desirous of. And look at these people outside the letters, right? The letters is supposed to be, letters meaning Greeks, right? That's supposed to be the cherry on top. You're supposed to be able to see all of the work that a person did, the blueprint they are leaving on campus, and then when you realize they're in a fraternity or sorority, it's like perfect. Like, not that they are perfect, but it's like perfect. I'm gonna move forward with now pursuing leadership from now, because there's a lot of great leaders that don't have letters. You know what I mean? So that's why you can't lead with the letters. Like, who is doing the things that you want to do? Exactly. Who's looking the way you want to look? And don't just go for them because they look that way. Because again, public success, private mess. But when they have the look and they're doing the work, allow them to pour into you.
Yes, I agree. And I actually, if I'm not mistaken, I got to remember, I believe I have an episode of my last season about student leadership and being a part of a student organization. So definitely check that out if you haven't checked it out yet. But before I leave, I have a few more kind of last questions before we end this episode. First one is there anything that you think we missed or anything you want to add to what we talked about today?
Got you. Now, this is where I'm going to become one of those things I spoke against. Be kind to yourself. No, but for real, like, be kind with yourself. Like, if you're trying to figure out your why, or if you're trying to heal through this thing, especially if you're doing it right now alone, right? You don't really have mentors, you don't have therapists and things like that, or you're not in therapeutic and healing spaces often, be kind to yourself. But be kind to yourself does not mean further destroy yourself, right? Like, it doesn't mean, being kind to yourself does not mean, you know what, go get that bottle. It doesn't mean, I'm already busting out of my pants and my shirts, but you know what, I'm gonna go get this slice of pizza. You know what I mean? That does not be what being kind to yourself means. Being kind to yourself means be patient. If you relapse, don't beat yourself up over it the next day. Just don't do it again. That's what being kind to yourself means. If you missed the gym once, that don't mean be so upset you missed the gym. Now you've missed the gym for 2 weeks. Missing the gym once means, guess what? I missed the gym once. You know what I mean? I'm going tomorrow, you know? Like, if you didn't wash your clothes and that's why you couldn't do a thing, that doesn't mean be super upset that you have to do laundry. That just means do your laundry so you don't have to miss the thing tomorrow, you know? That's what I mean by being kind to yourself. So I just think I wanted to stress that a little bit more, because this life thing isn't easy. We think by 30 we need to have kids and be married and have a nice career, nice car, and then as a person who's turning 30 and will probably be 30 by the time they hear this, that ain't how that's working. That is not anything about how that's going to work, you know? So don't let age be a factor, or don't let age be a measuring tool to how you should live your life. You know, just every day do a little bit more towards your dreams, towards figuring out your why, or towards healing. And if you do a little bit each day, you'll realize that you've gotten much further in a month and in a year than just trying to do big things
all at once.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a person who likes to plan things out. Like, with this podcast, all this summer I had like a paper schedule. I usually use my phone calendar, but I needed paper so I can see it all at once. And I wrote down everything I need. So I created questions for all the people, all the guests I'm going to have. So I wrote down each day what I'm going to write those questions. And it wasn't a lot. It was like, I'm going to write questions for 2 people this day, and 2 people for this day, and 2 people for this day. And by the time the end of the week or the end of the month, I got all the questions I needed.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, it's a little bit slow and steady wins the race. Always.
Exactly. And then secondly, if there's 1 or maybe 2 things you want people to leave this episode with, what would those things be?
Ooh. Okay. Thing number 1 is you are a reflection of the top 5 people you hang with. You know, so if you're around 5 entrepreneurs, you're bound to be the 6. You know, if you are around 5 thousandaires, right, or even millionaires, you're bound to be the 6. If you're around 5 thoughts, yikes. You know what I mean? Like, that's just, it's the law of attraction, and it's the law of the village, right? Birds of a feather absolutely have to flock together. And so if you do not like what's happening in your life, think about the top 5 people you spend the most time with, because you're a reflection of those people. Change those people. Thing number 2, if you are the smartest, if you are the wisest, if you are the most healed person in your group, you need a new group, because you messed up too. So if you the smartest as they come and you know what you dealing with, you need somebody who's an overcomer.
It's crazy that you say that, because I actually have an episode that I'm going to be doing for this season about being the smartest person in the room. And actually, it's kind of the opposite of what you said. And I said it's not always bad being the smartest person in the room. But I'm going to explain it for the episode, so be on the lookout for that.
Which, you know, and I can see that, you know, that spot. You work hard, you're bound to become the smartest. Like, don't be outworked, you know. So I love that. But cool, you won. Now you're the smartest. If you're just gonna chill on this throne of the smartest in that space, remember I said the day you stop growing is the day you begin to die. You know, so take your championship, sit on your throne, wash your feet, and then you go climb another ladder. You know,
Exactly.
you go surround yourself with bigger hitters and more hitters, because you're not the smartest person in the world.
Exactly.
You're just the smartest person in the room, and that room might be on the bottom floor of a skyscraper. You know, so you got a lot more rooms to go through.
Right, yep.
You know, and then once you get to the top of that building, you're gonna look, and it might be a taller building right next door. You know, so like, I love it. Don't be outworked. Become the smartest, right? And then once you become that, surround yourself with smarter. Surround yourself with wiser, because that's how you continue to grow.
Well, I do want to say thank you, Reggie, for all this information. I feel like this is a great episode and a lot of great nuggets that people can take away from it and apply to their life, like right now, not tomorrow, not after they get a degree, not after they have all these skills, but they can apply right now. So again, thank you for agreeing to be on this podcast.
You, man. It's an
But
honor.
before we go, I do want you to give you a chance to plug anything or shout out anything that you may be working on or that you want people to reach out to.
Okay. Yeah. So again, my name is Reggie Bates on Instagram and Twitter. You can catch me at Reggie_so dope. Please listen to my podcast. I like to call it Sophisticated Ignorance, but it is called Sick Discussion, PSYCK, because the English language is so dumb. So if you do PHYCH, that's psych. Okay, this is sick. So catch us on everything at Sick Discussion. So PSYCK discussion. You can go to our website. Y'all buy our card game. Like it is a drinking game. Don't get me wrong, but there's yellow cards in it and green cards in it that is not drinking at all. And the yellow cards are even safe for works, even if you work with white people. So like, yes, like get the cards. Please support. And maybe by the time this comes out, I'll have the pre-orders available for my book. So
Okay.
I'm releasing my first book, and it's called Embracing Your True Colors. It's a book of reflections to stay afloat. So be on the lookout. I'm doing a lot of really, really cool things. And if you have a budget, book me. I promise I'm nice.
And
That's all I got.
do you have a website for your?
Oh, yeah. So you can reach me at reggiesodope.com. So www.reggiesodope.com or sickdiscussion.com, because I got two websites. Or just DM me. I'm a human. Like, if you say, hey, I got a gig for you, I'll respond.
Exactly. Well, again, thank you again for agreeing to be on this podcast, giving your knowledge and potentially helping someone find their success. To my listeners, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for supporting me. Thank you for supporting my guests, all my guests. But until next time, continue your journey until you find your success. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode of the Lazenby Experience podcast. I really hope you were able to receive valuable information that will help you take actionable steps to get you closer to achieving your goals. If this is true for you, I would really appreciate it if you share this episode with others, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to continue receiving updates on new episodes. I truly am excited about how my experience, the Lazenby Experience, can make a difference in your life. Again, thank you for listening to the Lazenby Experience podcast, and until next time, continue your journey until you reach your success.